It started with something so small, I almost ignored it. A lipstick mark. Not mine. I was folding laundry when I noticed it, faint but unmistakable, on the collar of his white dress shirt. At first, I laughed to myself, thinking maybe it was a smudge from a client's handshake or even a silly mistake at the dry cleaner. But the longer I stared at it, the colder I felt inside. That night, I casually mentioned it while we were having dinner. He didn't even flinch. He smiled, leaned back in his chair, and said, "You're imagining things again, honey." Then he reached across the table, took my hand, and gave me that same charming smile that once made me fall in love with him. But my gut wouldn't let it go. Because the truth was, I wasn't the kind of woman to imagine things. Later, when he fell asleep, I found myself staring at his phone lying on the nightstand. My hands shook as I reached for it, knowing I might be opening a door I could never close. And that's when I saw her name. Elena. A single text message glowed on the screen. "Same time tomorrow? I can't stop thinking about you." My entire world tilted in that moment. And I had no idea that reading that one message would be the first step toward uncovering the kind of truth that would change my life forever. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that message. "Same time tomorrow." He stirred beside me, breathing evenly, as if nothing was wrong. And maybe for him, nothing was. But for me, everything had changed. In the morning, I forced a smile, poured his coffee, and kissed him goodbye like always. The second his car disappeared down the street, I grabbed my phone and called my best friend, Rachel. "Am I crazy?" I whispered. My voice cracked, and I could barely keep it together as I told her about the lipstick, the text, the name. "Listen," she said firmly. "If you really want to know, check his phone records. Men always slip up somewhere." I had never snooped before, but desperation makes you braver than you realize. I guessed his password on the first try, our wedding date. My stomach turned as the call log lit up, repeated calls to the same number. Elena. Always in the evenings. Always when he claimed he was working late. My chest tightened, but I couldn't stop. I dialed the number before my brain had time to tell me not to. "Hello." A woman's voice, soft, confident. I froze, panic clawing at my throat. But somehow, words spilled out. "Hi, this is Jessica from Dr. Wilson's office. We're just confirming your appointment for tomorrow with Mr. Carter." There was a pause. Then a light laugh. "Oh yes, with Daniel." "Thank you, Daniel. My husband." My knees nearly gave out as I hung up the phone. And that's when I knew this wasn't in my head. The next evening, I became someone I never thought I'd be, a spy in my own marriage. I parked my minivan across the street from his office, heart pounding so loud I thought it would give me away. Sunglasses, baseball cap pulled low, windows cracked just enough to breathe. I kept glancing at the clock, each minute dragging longer than the last. At exactly 5:45, the glass doors opened. There he was, my husband, looking sharp in the suit I'd ironed that morning, his tie perfectly knotted, his hair styled like he was stepping into a magazine shoot. But he wasn't walking toward his car. He was walking downtown. I followed at a safe distance, every nerve in my body screaming that this was wrong. He stopped in front of a sleek hotel I'd never been to before. My chest tightened as I watched him step inside. I slipped out of the van, pretending to scroll my phone, and peeked through the wide lobby windows. And that's when I saw her. She stood up as he entered, tall, slender, the kind of woman who turned heads without trying. Her long dark hair spilled over her shoulders, and when she leaned in to kiss his cheek, I caught a flash of diamond studs in her ears. My stomach lurched. I knew those earrings. I'd found them tangled in our bedsheets just 2 weeks ago. He had told me they were mine. I fumbled with my phone, hands trembling as I took a quick photo. My breath hitched when I noticed something else, the way she rested her hand over her stomach as she sat back down, as though protecting something. A silent, unspoken truth hit me harder than anything else had. She was pregnant. I barely made it back to my car before the tears came. My whole body shook as I scrolled through the blurry photos I'd just taken. Proof. Real, undeniable proof. But I knew photos weren't enough. If I confronted him now, he'd lie. He always lied so smoothly, so convincingly, that a part of me still wanted to believe him. So I called the number Rachel had given me earlier, a private investigator she swore by. His name was Tom. His voice was calm, steady, the kind that made you believe he'd seen it all before. Within days, Tom had a file ready for me. I remember sitting at my kitchen table, staring at the manila envelope like it contained a bomb. When I finally opened it, the truth exploded. Photos of them holding hands in the park. Him leaving her apartment at sunrise. Receipts for dinners at expensive restaurants we'd never gone to. And worst of all, copies of ultrasound images from her doctor's office, his name listed as the father. But it wasn't just what they'd been doing. It was when. Their first business dinner happened exactly 2 weeks after my miscarriage. While I was curled up in bed, grieving the baby we lost, he was already starting his new life. I pressed a hand over my mouth, trying not to sob loud enough for the kids to hear upstairs. That was the moment something inside me broke. Not my heart, my fear. Because if he thought he could replace me so easily, he had no idea who he was dealing with. I didn't cry anymore. I planned. The first thing I did was open a new bank account in my name only. Quietly, I transferred half our savings, just enough so he wouldn't notice right away. Then I made copies of everything in Tom's report, the photos, the receipts, the ultrasound images. I kept one set at home and gave another to Rachel just in case. The timing had to be perfect. And when I learned about his firm's annual gala, the one where wives weren't invited this year, I knew it was the stage he'd handed me on a silver platter. That night, I slipped into my best black dress, the one he used to love. My heels clicked against the marble floor as I walked into that glittering ballroom like I belonged there. Heads turned. Whispers started. And then I saw him. His smile faltered the second his eyes met mine. I walked right up to the managing partner, envelope in hand, and said sweetly, "I thought you should have this." Inside was his resignation letter, already signed with his own forged signature. The room went quiet as the partner's eyebrows shot up. And then, for the grand finale, I turned to her. Elena. She looked stunning, her belly now unmistakable under the silk dress. "Congratulations on the baby," I said clearly, making sure every ear in that room heard me. "Too bad the father's about to be unemployed." Gasps rippled through the crowd. He tried to speak, but the damage was done. For the first time in months, I felt powerful. The fallout came fast. By the next morning, the whispers from the gala had turned into full-blown scandal. His firm couldn't bury the story, not with half their clients already calling for clarification. By noon, he was officially out. The divorce was brutal, but my lawyer had a field day with the evidence. Between the PI's photos and the financial records, the judge barely needed convincing. I walked away with the house, full custody of the kids, and enough alimony to ensure I'd never have to worry again. As for him, he moved into a small apartment across town. The man who once bragged about closing million-dollar deals now struggled to cover his own rent. And Elena? She disappeared after the baby was born. Last I heard, she'd moved back to her hometown. Maybe she finally realized he wasn't the man she thought he was. At night, I still sometimes woke up expecting to hear his keys in the door. But instead, the house was calm, peaceful. And for the first time in years, so was I. But deep down, I knew my story with him wasn't over. Not yet. 6 months later, just when I thought I'd finally closed that chapter of my life, an email arrived. The subject line, "We need to talk." It was from Elena. Every instinct screamed at me to delete it, but curiosity won. She asked to meet, just once, for closure. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met in a quiet cafe downtown. She looked tired, older somehow, her makeup doing little to hide the dark circles under her eyes. "I thought you should see this," she said, sliding an envelope across the table. Inside were printed screenshots, text conversations between Mark and 3 other women. Some from months before she ever entered the picture. Some from years. I skimmed the messages, my chest tightening with every flirty line, every promise, every late night "I miss you." "You weren't the only one," she whispered, her voice breaking. For the first time, I didn't feel angry. I didn't even feel jealous. I felt pity. As I left the cafe, the cool air hit my face, and a weight I didn't realize I was still carrying seemed to finally lift. Because in that moment, I knew the truth. He hadn't just betrayed me. He had betrayed everyone. A year later, life felt normal again. I was sitting in the audience at my daughter's ballet recital, my phone buzzing quietly in my purse. I almost ignored it until I saw the number. Unknown. I opened the message and my breath caught. A photo of Mark sitting alone at a bar. His hair thinner, his face pale, his once perfect suit wrinkled. The caption read, "Karma's a bitch. Enjoy the show." I stared at it for a moment, then smiled. Deleted the photo. Slipped my phone back into my purse. Because right then, the music started and my little girl twirled across the stage, beaming. And I realized something. Revenge wasn't about hurting him anymore. It was about living better without him. And me? I was finally doing just that. But life has a way of surprising you when you least expect it. One evening, Sarah, my best friend who'd stood by me through it all, called with a plan. We need to catch him in the act. For good this time. I wasn't sure if I wanted to be that person, the one waiting to pounce. But curiosity got the better of me. We set up a hidden camera in Elena's old apartment, the place Mark sometimes still visited, or so I was told. We waited. When he finally walked through the door, flowers in hand, his confident smile plastered on, I was sitting in the shadows, watching every move. The look on his face when he saw me? Priceless. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I simply pressed play on my phone. A video montage, every lie he'd told, every secret meeting, every betrayal, laid out plain as day. His smug smile faded into shock, then anger, then defeat. Without a word, I slid a folder across the table. Inside were divorce papers, already signed. He looked at me, disbelief written all over his face. I wasn't the broken woman anymore. I was the one holding the power. The fallout was swift and relentless. His parents watched the video with heavy hearts, disbelief etched on their faces. His boss called him into a meeting, the video playing silently on the conference room screen. Friends distanced themselves, whispers following him like a shadow. Emily, one of the women from the messages, bravely testified about his patterns during the divorce hearings. The judge wasn't impressed, and neither was anyone else. Every lie, every secret, every betrayal was laid bare. And for the first time, Mark had no defense. When the dust settled, I got everything: the house, the savings, even his beloved golf clubs. He was granted supervised visitation with the kids, a bitter consolation prize. But the real punishment was the reputation that followed him everywhere: the whispers, the stares, the lost respect. I rebuilt my life on my own terms. Every morning, I woke up knowing I was free from lies, from betrayal, from the weight he'd carried on my shoulders. And my kids? They finally had a home filled with love and honesty. That was worth more than anything. Last I heard, Mark was living in a tiny apartment across town, the man he used to be a distant memory. Emily, the brave woman who testified, started a support group for women like us, women who'd been blindsided, betrayed, and left to pick up the pieces. As for me, I'm happier than I've been in years. I've rebuilt my life from the ground up, stronger and wiser. Sometimes, when I look in the mirror, I don't just see the woman who survived. I see the woman who refused to be broken. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder if I should feel guilty about how it all went down. But then I remember the countless times he called me frumpy or boring. The nights I waited up alone, hoping he'd come home. The lies he told, the secrets he kept. No, I don't owe him anything. I chose myself. And honestly, I wouldn't change a thing. To every woman out there who suspects something isn't right, trust your gut. Don't ignore the little signs, the off texts, the unexplained absences. And maybe, invest in a good private investigator. Because the truth will set you free. But revenge? That will make you smile every damn time. After the dust settled, I started to rebuild not just my life, but my sense of self. I took up painting again, something I'd abandoned years ago when life got too busy. Colors spilled across canvases like emotions I'd kept locked inside. My kids noticed the change. They smiled more. laughed louder. One afternoon, while I was painting, my daughter asked, "Mom, will you ever love again?" I paused, brush in hand, and looked at her. "Maybe," I said softly. "But first, I have to learn to love myself." One evening, out of nowhere, Mark tried to reach me. His messages were full of apologies, promises to change, begging for another chance. I read them, then deleted every single one. Not because I was heartless, but because I realized something vital. I deserved better than empty words and broken promises. I wasn't going back to a life of secrets and lies. I was moving forward on my own terms. Months later, I met someone new, a kind, patient man who saw me for who I truly am. He didn't rush or pressure me. He simply stood by my side, letting me heal at my own pace. With him, laughter returned to my life, genuine, effortless. But even as I began to open my heart again, I never forgot the lessons I'd learned. Trust is earned, not given. And self-love is the strongest foundation of all. One day, while cleaning out old boxes, I found a letter I'd written to myself the night I discovered the truth about Mark. I read it again, the pain, the fear, but also the fierce determination. That letter reminded me how far I'd come. I wasn't just a victim anymore. I was a survivor. And my story? It was only just beginning. Standing here now, I realized something powerful. Betrayal broke me, but it also rebuilt me. I'm no longer defined by his lies or my pain. I'm defined by my strength, my courage, and my choice to keep moving forward. To every woman listening, your worth isn't tied to someone else's actions. You have the power to rewrite your story. And sometimes, the most unexpected endings are the ones that lead to the best beginnings.